I do believe that every human being has the potential to have anything they want in the world as long as they're in sync and in the vibration of that. So part of that.
Anand Patel is a multi-passionate man with background in business, mainly his family business. He is published in a best-selling book, born in LA, brought up in Portugal, studied in the UK, when he then went back to his family roots in Zimbabwe. Anand started his entrepreneurial career in network marketing, where many other projects resulted from, such as personal development and growth, financial planning, and charity. He is a family man, and his biggest passion is traveling, eating, living a life of wellness, health, and an abundance of happiness, a true lifestyle advocate. Anand is an environmentalist and has pursued his goal of reducing his carbon footprint. The recent global events made him look at other options such as crypto, forex, and other investing. All right, Anand, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's actually the second episode, and I'm so happy you're here. It's been a while in the making, but thank you for coming on.
Oh, you are welcome, buddy. I'm so happy to be here. Super excited for your podcast.
Yeah, it's quite a thing, right? So I met Anand for the first time in Cape Town in January 2020 in South Africa. And this was just before the global pandemic. Like literally there was January, and then in March, everything went to...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we pretty much met up and came back and things just got crazy.
Exactly. So we've been in touch since. Although we only met once, but there was a good connection between us. Apparently you're following me for my good food in Vietnam here. But for the listeners, you will notice Anand is a great speaker because he's one of the self-development speakers as well, just as the previous guest speaker, Millie. He's an amazing speaker, humanitarian with a great sense of humor. And the reason I brought you on, Anand, is I was always very curious and inspired by your story as an entrepreneur in a country with a very difficult economical situation. And you can maybe like enlighten us a little bit more, because from the stories I heard from you, it's quite the thing there over in Zimbabwe.
Basically, like, as you say, there's a difficult upheavals going on and people have to change their mindset. But let's go through what you're going to say. And I will definitely touch on an entrepreneur's journey in a country like Zimbabwe.
Cool. Yeah. So you will notice his huge optimism and positivity is very catchy. So it's always a joy talking to you, Anand. And let's get into it. I already touched a little bit on it, but you're quite a traveler and quite the global man. But right now, where are you? What are you doing? And what's your main focus?
Okay, so I'm in Zimbabwe, guys. Simply put, I think since the global pandemic, I was in Zimbabwe the entire time. We had I think it was about 7 lockdowns back to back. So really was in Zimbabwe. Probably the longest time I've been at home, actually, in the past 5-6 years. You know, Milan, you know me through the travel, through personal development. Backstage, we used to like goof around and we got to know each other. And then, you know, that's when we connected at that level. And that was at a big, I think there was about 2,000 people, I can't remember, at the Cape Town event. Yeah. I don't remember what there was.
There was quite a few people indeed.
Yeah. So right now I'm in Zimbabwe, have been here for the whole period, of course. I've done a couple trips, a little bit, not too much, because we couldn't really move around outside Zimbabwe, but we were able to go to Dubai. So I did a couple of trips there, and I went to see my family in the US because it was my grandmother's memorial. You know, sadly, we lost her a year ago due to COVID. So what I've been doing while I'm here, I think COVID was a really good period if we took the positive angle of it. And in Zimbabwe, we often have to find positives because, you know, there's power cuts and there's potholes and there's political mayhem. I mean, I've survived through a military coup, an internet shutdown. I mean, I never knew you could shut down the internet. But in Zimbabwe, you know, for 5 days, I think it was about 5 days, they shut down the internet. So, you know, you never hear of these things outside countries like Zimbabwe, but what it makes you is resilient. It makes you, either you become victim to the situation or you become a victor because you realize the conversations in your head are going to really help you. So I ended up doing a lot of yoga, YouTube yoga, and a lot of meditation. And breath work. I use Wim Hof. I don't know if you know Wim Hof, but I do
Yeah.
a bit of Wim Hof breath work, yoga channels on YouTube, and meditation. And that really helped me. And of course, exercise. But that helped me realize that, we're all running. We're running, or we were running pre-COVID. And this allowed us to slow down a little bit and say, okay, what is important? Why is it important? And yes, money is important. So I'm not going to be that tree hugger guy that's going to say, oh, the world is so perfect and nature is amazing. Yeah, it is. I totally am. I'm an environmentalist, but I'm also a realist, and I love travel, so you have to make money. So I kind of started looking at options out there to see, what do people do from home. Yeah, we can all be on Zoom meetings all day long, but how about learning a little bit on investments? How about learning a bit about entrepreneurship? And little by little, it became a really fun project. Because you feel like you own a bit of your future, and if you make mistakes and lose some money, it's okay. You almost have to give yourself that ability to do that. But the meditation and yoga did help, because you will know you're good enough, and you will know that you'll be okay. As long as you know you're okay, you'll take bigger risks. The bigger risks you take, the more freedom you will have at the end of that tunnel, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So as mentioned before, you moved to Zimbabwe because you were living in different places around the world, because you wanted to do the family business there. But did you know when you moved to Zimbabwe that it's actually not an easy country to live in? So if so, what made you decide to actually go there into the deep end?
So when I moved here, things were a little bit more stable. So I moved here, my parents, my twin sister and I moved here when we were, I think we just turned 17. So we were 16, just about to turn 17, like in 3 months. So basically we were 17. And we're only here for a little bit, like a year and a half, because we did our A levels. What they call A levels here would be IGCSEs overseas. And we did that here and then went to England for university. But when I came back, I worked in England for a couple of years with the Royal College of Nursing. And then I came back here, and I knew then business was meant to be good. It was still stable enough. People were doing really well. But as soon as I came here, within a matter of, I'm guessing about 12 months, the whole economy went spiraling down. So did I know it was going to be a difficult place? Yes, it's different to living in a first world country. I was brought up in Portugal, lived in the UK, was born in Los Angeles. But I didn't know what I was preparing for. But I think here what happens is people make a plan. Right? You're not codependent. You realize when there's a power cut or the banking sector doesn't work, things just don't work. You kind of always are on your feet. So you always make a plan, and you actually realize that if you can do it here, you can pretty much do it elsewhere. You know what I mean? But yeah, I didn't know it was going to be this crazy, but I'm actually grateful for it. In fact, I had the option to leave. Obviously, I can go, I can go to the States or wherever, I can go work somewhere. But I fell in love with the resilience of people and the ability to smile no matter what. I mean, when there's no food on the shelves, there's no petrol in the gas stations, there's no money in the banks. That's how bad it got at its lowest points. Now I'm going back a few years, okay? But at that time, if you landed in Zimbabwe, at the airport, you'll see a whole bunch of people smiling. Yeah, when they went home, there's no power, no water, nothing, but they're all smiling. And that really showed me how spoiled I was when I was overseas, or how for granted I take certain things. Yeah. So over here, it taught me gratefulness. So yeah, I stuck around.
That's great. I totally understand that, because I feel that's similar in Vietnam. A lot of people see it as a third world country, maybe even, but honestly, Vietnam is booming like crazy. And a lot of people need a lot of resilience to keep living. No work is no food. Yeah, you can't feed your children, So
more opportunity in third world countries, or what if you want to call them third world, but there's more opportunity because it's looking for ideas and solutions and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I feel in first world countries, as it were, majority of the population are simply working, even though it's a first world country, they've got a job and they're still usually broke at the end of the month. So better to be kind of your own entrepreneur in a developing country with ideas. And, I'm not saying all first world countries don't have that, but I feel like that's probably what Vietnam has. I loved Vietnam. I went to Vietnam literally the December before I met you, right? Before I met you in Cape Town. I think it was then, and I went in December, and I fell in love with it. There's such a beautiful vibe about it, and the food culture and people. There's wholesomeness when you don't have everything, and it's not all shiny, and it's not available, and it's not just fast food and cafes. There's culture, there's history, and that means a lot for generations to come. People are losing a bit of humanity, and in countries like Zimbabwe, if you go to the outside the city, they still have that. They're connected to the earth, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree with that. So to keep the conversation moving forward, I want to talk about, obviously you're a very experienced person in doing so many things, and you lived in so many places. What are your aspirations and dreams? Did you already achieve those? Or what are you working on right now? Or like what is like the dream for you?
Okay, that's a good question. It's a good question because many of us ask that, when we do vision boards or whatever, we always want to know what's our dream. And I feel like dreams and goals are very fluid. People that I used to be very steadfast. I used to just stick to that. I said, this is my goal. I have to get this done. And that was the end of it. And what I realized, I think, during this period of lockdowns was that we are fluid people. Humans are fluid by nature. So have I reached my goals? No, because once you've hit something, a physical goal, but don't worry, I haven't hit that. I keep on discussing body fat and muscle mass, and it never seems to actually work out because then I end up eating too much. But anyways, the point is, at least I'm consistent with my exercise, but I haven't hit the goal. That six-pack is nowhere near coming. But what is good is, you always adjust that goal and you maybe extend yourself further. And sometimes things happen. Like I hit the pinnacle, my goal in my previous company. I was doing a bit of network marketing at home while I did have a full-time job back in the day. And I hit a really good level. I hit the highest level in the company. And that was the goal for then. But after that point, you say, okay, well, what's going to challenge me now? What's going to grow me as a soul, as a human being, as a member of society? So at the moment, I'm being very selfish at the moment because my friend asked me the other day, what do you truly want? And years ago, I had goals for philanthropy, for charity. I used to do a lot of charity work, school programs, hospital work, cancer children. I love all that stuff. It really feeds my soul. But when he asked that question, what do you want? Like, what would you want to do? And I straight away said, I want to go on vacations. I want to have fun. I want to create a community of people that as I age, because look, Milan, you're younger than me, but you and I are going to be around till 100 years old. With modern medicine, with medical care, you're going to be around a lot longer than previous generations. So I know we want to build a sense of community. So what I'm actually working on right now is developing like almost a dinner club of different people, different races, different walks of life, whereby we meet like every 8 weeks. And we almost become like a little group of people that invite more people that are there. So mainly not for fleeting relationships, but for deep, meaningful ones, right? To break bread. And so building community is one project I'm working on actively, which people usually think, oh, I'll just go for drinks on a Friday. I'll meet some friends at the bar. But if you build it with intention and purpose and a mission statement, I feel would be better. So that's one of my goals for 2022. I'm doing it with a friend called Barbara, which is kind of cool. The other goal was to become much more savvy in making my money work for me. And I don't mean that means you have money. I started when I had no money, right? So I started this a while ago, but becoming more of a student of investing, because there's obviously different investing, right? There's real estate indexes. If you can't afford to buy an entire house, then you buy indexes. And I feel indexes are probably more reliable than buying a building or a house. So a bit of real estate indexes, stocks and shares, traditional, cryptocurrency, exposing yourself to forex. So just a few little things in your portfolio. And that's become quite a passion project, which is nice because it's related to money, obviously. And then one of my other goals is to basically travel. And even when you met me, Milan, way back, if I go 10 years ago, or even 20 years ago at university, I used to get like nighttime jobs or call center jobs on the weekend when all my buddies were drinking and getting drunk and whatever, which of course we all partake in, but not, I used to have a more of an idea to say, no, I need to make some extra money so I can go to Portugal, so I can do this at university. And I traveled more than all my university college friends. And that was simply because to me, the texture of life is travel. And that's one thing you cannot take away from someone. Money can be made. Money can definitely be lost. Trust me, ask me. You can lose a lot of money. But as long as you have the ability to have confidence to say, it's okay, it's a chapter, I can get over this chapter. So my goal for this year is to also build back a life where travel becomes a big part of it, and investing is going to fund it, obviously. And yeah, looking around and just keeping a good, healthy network of people. I think instead of being a character where that you say, oh yeah, I'm going to keep everyone happy, I'm no longer that stage. I'm in my 40s now, and I kind of realized that you have to accept people for what they show you. If they show you traits that do not align with your character and personality, you need to kind of be able to say, okay, you've shown me your true colors. But most of us, including me, what I used to do, I put rose tinted glasses and I used to wash it with rose paint and say, oh, it's okay, they're having a bad time. When they were young, they had troubles, and I make excuses for them in their 40s and 30s. And I'm like, now I don't suffer fools. So I simply say, okay, if they've shown me the true colors, I need to accept that. And I have to know what my boundaries are so that I can build up the community and family of friends that I want. I hope that helps.
Wow, that's very inspirational. So you're very focused on happiness and community, and instead of, because that's why I'm trying to do this podcast, to see people's different opinions of goals or different approaches on that. And for you, it's definitely happiness comes first, and that's great.
Let's be clear. I think developing countries and first world countries, the difference mainly is that first world countries are now getting to the stage where they're looking at sustainability, they're looking at environmental issues, ethical production lines, blah, blah, blah. Developing countries are saying, no, it's not fair. We want to catch up. So we should be allowed to pollute more, manufacture more, build up consumerism to build our economy. Similarly, I'm just putting an analogy here. Similarly, I think I'm very cognizant that money makes the world go around, and also money makes things happen. That's how you can pay for experiences. That's how you can save money for your old age. So it's a balancing act. But when you highlight what makes you happy, when you highlight ethics and morals that your character will stand by, you can still make the money and also do that. That's my point. I've got to a more of a balance in recent years compared to a few years ago. So that makes me really, really content. And I've maybe have less friends, but they're more, they're deeper relationships. Some people I've not spoken to in absolute years, but guess what? When I see them in London, trust me, they'll be like best buddies again. So it's not about quantity anymore. It's more about quality. Let's put it that way.
Totally, and agree with that. So now we have that idea of your goals and aspirations. I want to ask, what is your full potential? And also, I'm going to ask it you straight like this, because I want to see how you interpret that and how you feel what your full potential is or could be.
Okay. I love that question, actually, because I'm a Libran, by the way. I was born in October. I'm a twin. So Librans are usually always trying to seek balance, which is really funny because there's no balance in the world anyways, but we're always trying to seek it. So why I say this is, what is the full potential? If you asked me this a year ago or 2 years ago, I definitely was, and I felt like I was a really good trainer in terms of building up systems, having a sense of a direction, a path, and step by step, like micro steps along the journey. And it was always about being more efficient. Kind of like Tim Ferriss, who wrote the 4-Hour Body, the 4-Hour Work Week. He was really focused on that. And he's a guy I love to follow. And he was focused on efficiency, best methodologies, all that kind of stuff. But today he's woken up to a new epiphany, which is actually, there is no point sometimes just focusing on efficiency. Sometimes you just need to take the flow. So I will tell you now, my full potential has a little bit of efficiency. I like systems. I like to know that if I'm going to spend less time doing work, which is the goal, then I better be efficient in it. But that is not the only purpose of humans, of me, to be highly efficient 24 hours a day. So right now, my full potential is more to do with mindfulness and the ability to listen to my inner voice, my gut, as it were, or your inner spirit. And in fact, I've just signed up, just last week, I got approved. You have to apply for Vipassana meditation, which is a 10-day silence meditation retreat. They're all over the world. There's only one in Africa, unfortunately. It's in, well, fortunately, actually, it's in Cape Town. So my next trip, finally, will be going back to Cape Town after like 2.5 years when I saw you.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm super excited about that because that's meditation. So I feel like full potential. Now I want to look at the spiritual realm. I want to be more spiritual because I do believe that every human being has the potential to have anything they want in the world as long as they're in sync and in the vibration of that. So part of that has to be, I want to listen to my intuition. I was never very good at that. I used to doubt my choices, my decisions. I used to, spend hours and hours preparing for things when really, if I simply listen to my intuition, and my mind, what my mind is telling me, I think we all have that potential. So I'm just going to I've done it before 5 years ago, and I'm doing it again because it was really, really beautiful. And I kept on procrastinating, which I'm very good at. And I thought, that's it. Let me lock it down and do it. Aren't we all? Exactly. So I think full potential is, if I want to work 3 hours, as long as I don't have guilt associated, I just do the 3 hours and you go away. If you have guilt, then you are basically never going to reach full potential. So to eliminate guilt, you have to start listening to your inner self and know deep down that the world is there to serve you. You are not there to serve it. And once that programming changes, I think things start flowing a bit better.
Very interesting. So back again to your goals and aspirations, that like your full potential is your happiness, is your being in peace with yourself and being comfortable with yourself.
Definitely that. And the other angle, everything is, Librans are always the other angle. The other angle is the full potential also is in the few hours that I want to work per day. Let's say you want to work part-time for the rest of your life. You want to be able to move or travel or whatever. My full potential also will be to max out the income that I can make, the streams of income I can make. So I'm looking at about 3-4 other projects at the moment. And I want to make sure I can max that out, but I don't want to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. But full potential means that if you're spending a day learning the metaverse, for example, be a student. Don't be the hype guy who just starts prancing on about things and talking about things. So if you're investing in a new farm, I just invested in a small little pharmaceutical company because I'm not into big pharma per se, but I do know that certain medications are needed for chronic disease. And there's a company actually doing home deliveries to elderly people. So be a student, go study like something. So to me, full potential is always be open to learning. I've thoroughly enjoyed learning over the whole 2 years now about health. I've been studying about medical health, which is so funny. I've been studying about organ health and trace minerals and the weirdest things. But guess what? It's part of full potential. It doesn't pay me at the moment. I don't make money on it, but I love the idea of part of the community I want to build, that I can do talks about health, wellness, and longevity. Those are the 3 things that really excite me. So yeah, and there's other things like that. So full potential is living your best life, but knowing what your priorities are going to be.
That's very wise for sure. So what do you do actively day by day or step by step to reach that full potential or to follow those dreams of yours?
Okay, so a couple of routines. I like routines. I think routines build up good habits eventually. So a couple of things I'll do. I will try and drink. It sounds weird, right? But I will try and drink my water. So as soon as I wake up, I drink about just under a liter or about a liter, lemon hot water. And I drink the whole thing. As soon as I wake up, my feet touch the ground and I say, thank you, thank you, thank you, 3 times. And then I have a flask of water literally right next to me. And I just I drink all of it. And of course, obviously the next thing is I have to run to the bathroom and pee, obviously. So once I've done all these little routine things, the other thing that I love to do every day, every day or every second day, I like to always fit in breath work and a meditation. So I have an alarm on my phone at 5:30 p.m. and I try and sit down at 5:30 p.m. in between Zooms, different time zones. I try to just sit down and do that quick meditation. I've built it up to 22 minutes so far. Well, yesterday was 23 minutes actually. So slowly getting there. And the other things that I like to do is sit down and map out your day. So if you are going to enjoy your day, family time, meeting friends for coffee, then you need to be present doing those things, not thinking about, oh, I got to finish this work and I didn't do this. So I try and map up my day in my diary. I'm very old school. My twin sister does everything on her Apple iPhone. So her diaries on her iPhone, etc. I'm really old school. I have literally an old school diary. I have colors in it. I look like a kid. I've got highlighters and I have different categories. So I literally just go through my day, look at my appointments for the day, and try and make sure that I'm going to be aware through that day, but making sure I've tried to do some exercise. I do about 4 times a week. I do 45 minutes a day. So I try and finish my exercise. I'll do my meditation, like I said. And sometimes for me, the best thing I can do after my meditation is not run back in my office and jump on Zooms, because I do a lot of my work in the evening because of time zones, will be to sit and have a cup of tea. So, you just need have your tea. If you're staying with family or you got someone you're living with, just to say, hey, you know what? I want to be present with you for like 10, 15 minutes before I jump onto another meeting or something. So I love doing those things, and they seem to give me a lot of good grounding. But in between your work day or your work week, I think meeting 1 or 2 friends that inspire you is really healthy, right? So meeting them for a coffee. I know Vietnam Vietnam and a lot of Asia is just famous for beautiful, amazing coffee, obviously. And in Zimbabwe, we have a coffee culture. So I try, but I have to say I'm really bad, because when I get into a work mode, or more importantly, when I got into COVID mode, I'm an introvert naturally. So my natural instinct is to stay at home, to not go. I mean, I didn't leave my house for 18 weeks. I didn't even leave the driveway. So, sometimes you have to be very wary of that, because us introverts can become very weird people. So you have to balance out your activities. So I try and actively make a reason to get out once a week or twice a week, just to meet someone and have a completely different conversation. So those are the routines I would say. One more I'm going to tell you right now, which I think psychologically helps, especially if you have cases of mild depression, or you are susceptible to having negative thoughts about yourself. And this is something I went through. So it's interesting to go through, to discuss this. Understanding what you eat or your diet, I feel, has been one of the biggest major mental breakthroughs for me. Okay. So I try and eat clean food. I try and eat natural food, organic as far as I can go. I do not eat processed food or tinned food or things like that. But what I simply put, like eating things like sauerkraut in the morning. I have sauerkraut, I have sprouted lentils, and I put medium chain triglycerides, so MCT oil, which is a coconut derivative. And I make a little mix up every morning. Every morning, the first thing that I do is that. I intermittent fast, so I don't eat dinner. I stop eating at about 2:30 p.m. or 2 p.m. And the next time I eat will be breakfast. And simply put, those things have helped. It helps your gut. It helps your brain. And it's the gut biome that really helps you get your mental alertness there. And it avoids those little dips that many of us, especially entrepreneurs, can get when things are not working, or you're in a relationship that is just testing you. You need to have that ability to say, my diet can actually, number one, heal me. My diet basically influences my thinking patterns. And once you do that, you'll be more likely to enjoy kale or spinach if you hate it right now. So if you want to do a juice once a day or whatever, I like to drink, I do drink water. So I don't drink cold drinks at all because of sugar content. I'm not crazy healthy. I love my desserts. If you follow me on Instagram, you will literally think I'm a food blogger, or Facebook. I literally eat all the time. But it's a balance, right? So you can enjoy, but I even became vegan during COVID. So I'm 80-20. 80% of the time I'm vegan, like as in plant-based, dairy-free. And 20% of the time, depending if there's a group or a family, I don't get fussy. So I would be vegetarian. So if there's cheese on the pizza, I don't throw up a big fuss. But it allowed me to clean up my system and reduce my carbon footprint on planet Earth, which was beautiful. But if you do suffer, and we all do, by the way, my people used to say, oh, you're always so positive. You're always so great. Oh my God, you went from introvert and you studied and worked, and 5-10 years later, you're on stages with 2,000 people and you're always so upbeat. Well, no one is permanently on a high. Okay. I'm not like a hyped up guy, but I went through dips. I did that. That happened a couple of years ago. In fact, Milan, when you met me in February, and 5 months
Yeah.
before that, January, okay, January, literally 4 months before that, I was suffering with minor bouts of depression. And that just was getting me up and down. And I realized a lot of that is, number one, is dietary, but a lot of it was circumstance. So I had to change my boundaries and not allow certain people to affect me in that way. And of course, meditation helps, but diet. So that's just a side note. Guys, fix your diets, become a student of health, and trust me, probiotics will save your life.
That's very interesting. I can totally imagine that you are what you eat in a way, they say. And it's so true. When you eat crap, you just feel crap. And
And it's a
especially,
bit like
yeah,
you keep
and you
on
keep doing
it.
it, you keep doing. And I'm
Yeah.
unfortunately stuck in those cycles too often.
Okay. We'll do a private Zoom ourselves, and I'll give you some health coaching tips.
Okay, sounds good. So you actually been telling us about it already. A lot that you do is because you've been researching yourself. You've been self-taught, most of it, right? So
Yeah.
have you always been self-taught, and what's the reason of it? Like, is there someone that tells you that you need to do these certain things, or?
Oh, that's a good question. I never thought of that way. So I will say one thing. In Hindu culture, I'm Hindu by birth, but I'm more spiritual in practice than religious. But simply put, in our faith, you respect your parents. And I know I'm very blessed that my parents are not completely crazy, and that I have a very good relationship with them. I speak to them. I actually spend time with them. In fact, someone told me I'm one of the rare sons, and my sister, of course, that we travel with our parents. So we literally try and make sure we do 2 trips a year with my parents. And my parents have been quite important in helping me become a student of life. And that is where sometimes my dad is now 73. He's the one that got me a couple of years ago to even try to understand how blockchain technology will change contractual laws in the world today, and how this, that, the other will change this. And my dad, who's like, in those days, he was in his late 60s, right? Just a few years ago. So what I'll say is this. I do, obviously I studied in, well, not obviously, but I was blessed enough that my parents were able to send my sister and I to university. I do believe in studying academically, but now that I'm more of a student of life, I don't necessarily think that everyone has to give their liver and kidney to send their children to university. I think there's better realistic ways out there to become a global citizen who makes a lot more money than people that have, PhDs on the wall. So the reality is, me becoming self-taught. I did do my, biochem and manufacturing management at university. I loved the experience of university. I think it taught me how to absorb information and digest it and break it down, but I don't think it's essential. There's things like, for example, Mind Valley. Mind Valley has a university program, and 4 months a year you can go study, things with amazing experts in their industry. So there's different ways now to acquire information. I've done quite a lot of courses online, not the funny ones, but the good ones, like investing. I literally, COVID hit, and the first course I signed up for was an investment course, The Automatic Millionaire by Rose Sasha. And it was fun. It's just interesting to learn a bit more. But health and fitness, and when you're old, I always say, do you want to age healthily, or do you want to age unhealthily? Because everyone's going to age. You're going to die at 85, 95, 105. But now the question is, do you want the last 10 years of your life to be uncomfortable or bedridden? So I always look at it that way. Okay. So simply put, the best thing I started doing was I got notepads, and really old school. Okay. I love it. Notepads. I have a software on my laptop called Agenda, but I never use it. So I tried to be techie and type over there, but literally little old school A5 notebooks. I label them health and fitness, if you're interested, whatever topics you're interested in. And as I read articles, as I find videos on you, and YouTube is such a good teacher, like seriously, instead of following stupid celebrity memes and dumb like comedy skits, but I will tell you one thing, I do watch a few comedians before bed just because it helps me laugh and you go to bed. But there's so much valid information on YouTube by scientists, doctors, researchers, technology agents, that if you are interested in a topic, go follow 5 or 6 different people that have the credibility and the backing to say they're not just opinion makers. I do not follow influencers. That, I mean, things like that. Sorry, like I could be an influencer, and I've been offered a dozen and one different companies saying, "Oh, can you promote our gold necklace? Can you promote this vegan thing? Can you promote the?" I'm like, no. I say no. I don't do any of that stuff, because influencers are influencing you on what they are being paid to influence you on. Whereas someone that is a student or studied a topic, like I love understanding a bit of science. I love understanding even dermatology. So I started a course on dermatology for interest. I didn't finish it because I'm not getting paid for it. I'm just interested in it. And I follow dermatologists to understand how certain things work. I follow one optometrist because of my eye health. So I'm a bit more educated than when I go to the optometrist. I can say, look, I understand X, Y, Z, and I have a dry eye condition. So I just got a bit more interested in it. So I would say become a student. And it happened to me because my parents probably said, yeah, you've studied, but if you study and you stop studying or learning, you are going to die. Your brain is going to die and you'll become a boring person. You become a common human being like everyone else. Be a good student and keep on learning something. So I try to do 1 hour every day. Sometimes it doesn't work. Most of the time it's 1 hour every 2 days, and in the form of usually reading or video. That's pretty much my investment in education, or my education.
That's awesome. I'm also a very big advocate of learning new things, and I love history, for example. So on YouTube, I'm always following history stuff, like the Romans, like
yes,
the Greeks, all that stuff. I just love it. So yeah, just keep your brain on the move, like constantly. So I want to ask you: are you are you happy you went to university? Are you happy you're doing it the way you do it, or what would be for you maybe a better way for learning things?
So number one, because of where I am or what my age right now, I would not change a thing. I am happy I went to university. Do I feel it was the best investment for my parents' hard-earned money? Maybe not. But what it did teach me is also social dynamics. So while you can self-teach, that's great. But nowadays, a lot of online things and short courses, they're also quite interactive with people. So things have definitely changed on that front. If I had to redo the whole thing, I would probably, if I knew what I knew now, if I could go back in time, I would probably take the money they invested in me piece by piece and spend that on other courses that were more relevant, like learning financial management, things that we weren't taught at school. I wish I knew 20, 30 years ago what I know now, right? So I would go learn a short course on that. I would have done that instead. I would have gone for personal development coachings. I would have gone for public speaking. Whether your dream is to be a public speaker or not, I never aspired to ever stand on a stage. I was so shy and crazy shy that I never aspired to that. But what I will say is, once you break that fear, whether you do it as a profession or not, it is probably one of the best courses you will ever do. Dale Carnegie has such a fantastic book on that. But simply put, those are the things I would invest my time in, my money in. In fact, my nieces and nephews, sometimes I was like, why are the parents, some parents are old school. You have to go to university, you have to get first class honors, you better get a really good, respectable job so people in society think it's amazing. It's always for show, but a lot of the time I realize now, self-education, short courses with experts in their field, people that have done amazing, maybe athletically, if you're an athlete, if you want to be an athlete, if they've done good in money, what have they traded in, what are they doing? Go learn that at a younger age, because university almost uniformly takes away 4 to 6 years of your life, and you are focused on one thing only, when you could be learning 5 or 10 different things. And actually, over time, you would land up in a better place. You would wake up at the age of 40 or 50, and you'd be tenfold better if you necessarily didn't do it. So I'm not against education. My entire family is very academic. We have doctors, lawyers, we have entrepreneurs. My dad's entire family is self-employed, and they've all done it, but they all got degrees, engineering, aeronautical engineering, that kind of stuff. But it's not the only answer. There are many answers out there that suit different budgets and different lifestyles. But you have to remember, one of the best things you can get from an education is your network of friends. And that's something I didn't monetize, or I did not realize when I was that young. And if there's one tip I can get young people is to say, your network of people or friends, they will eventually carry you up or carry you down. It is your choice. And you just have to be very wary of who your friends are and why you have chosen that person to be a friend.
That's very interesting. I totally agree with with networking as well. It's so important. The people you surround with is like you're in the end the product of your environment. That's very interesting. So I want to ask you, are you happy where you are, the way you are doing things right now? Or because you love learning, but I want to ask you, do you like the process of learning? Or if you had the option of taking the pill of all the knowledge, would you want that? Or do you enjoy that whole process of it? Like the journey compared to the destination, but in your case, the teaching, because you're very advocate of teaching, like learning and all
teach
of that.
it onward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I know the best. So my answer is, I'm going to be very honest with you. My answer is, I know that the process of learning is going to be more useful, because if you learn something and you don't teach it onwards, you're going to forget that skill or that lesson. So I kind of like, even if I do a pro bono talk on health or call friends over or something, and I say, this is the topic, it's because I've learned something. And that's a good way. But me being the lazy Libran that I am, I mean, if I could just say, hey, I'm going on vacation and hanging out in the beaches of the world, like all the time, I would say I'll take the pill. But deep down, my true self knows that is not the answer. I know that I love the learning part of it. I love the growth part of it. And I feel like if I just swallow the pill, which, my lazy self would want to do, I would eventually regret it, because knowledge without the lessons of gaining it are not appreciated. It's like let's say you have children and you want them to be the best citizens they can be. Well, in that case, humans only learn through duress. I don't know if you know the brain plasticity, I can't pronounce it now. It is built through duress. So under circumstances of learning and forced learning and adapting is how these neurons are made. And that's why we become the people we are. When we're given it on a silver platter and you give your children everything they need, they actually do not end up being as highly functional as you hoped. So my logical brain says, no, I will do the learning, I'll apply the learning, and I'll be a better person 10, 20 years from today. My lazy self, who, will say, let's just do a drink and meet in Bali, will say, I'll pop the pill. But hopefully my brainy part will switch on.
That's very interesting indeed. So the question following that up is, what is then stopping you from reaching your goals? I mean, your goals are quite open-ended. It's not like a specific something, but are there any obstacles in your life that is stopping it? And what I hear now, like, and you answering the previous question, is it might be you yourself.
Yeah, I was going to actually say I know it's me, because I have a money goal. I have a financial goal, a figure in my head, it's $10 million. And I was like, right, it's there. I've written it out. I've kind of worked with it. I've worked towards it. And I know the reason I'm not there is because of me getting distracted, and me also, the student part of you gets distracted, because once you start, I'm looking at this and I'm deep diving, you are actually going down a rabbit hole. But sometimes that rabbit hole, if you can pick your head out of it, and meditation helps, pick your head out of it, you will be able to say, okay, well, I went down that rabbit hole, but I learned this and this, and I'm going to carry this forward. Now, I don't think money is the end goal of anything. I think it makes things possible. But having a number and an articulate date, all that stuff helps your brain, your subconscious, work towards it. So I do believe in that. Have I hit the goal yet? No. I am working on it. Yes. Is it an active thing that I work on? Yes. So even though I believe in everything else, I do believe that my financial, because I do also acknowledge the fact that my generation is going to live longer than the previous generations. And people have not planned for retirement to retire at 100, to live until 100. And I'm planning my finances and everything until the age of 100. People today, they all thought they're going to die at 75, 80. They plan to basically not even be around after 80 or 85. And what happens is they don't have the ability financially to support themselves for medical and stuff. So I'm looking at that. So my goal has not been hit there. My physical goal, oh my God. So I've got a trainer. He's amazing. I'm very aware of what I eat, but I do splurge. I take a day off and I eat what I want to. So that, do I have that 6-pack body? Do I have the muscle mass that girls just go, oh my God? No, I don't. But what I have is a super healthy body, highly flexible, highly functional. So I'm looking at that kind of stuff. Will I ever get to that goal? Well, the answer is no, because I myself say I want it, because it's that's what GQ tells us to say, or the magazines or the fashion people. But deep down, I'm not sacrificing. I'm not willing to give up good food and be ultra disciplined that I'm always in the gym and stuff. So I have to find a medium when it comes to my physical goal. When it comes to my learning goal, yeah, I think I'm hitting it, because you never graduate in life. You are a student of life. So it's a ongoing process. And I definitely do not regret anything I have learned in the past couple of years since the pandemic. So yeah, I think that's me in a nutshell. In terms of like goals. If you guys have goals out there, and everyone, sometimes we think we know our goals. This is an important lesson that it took me a while to learn. Sometimes we think we know what we want because that's the influences of society. Until you go deep down inside and ask yourself why, in a quiet space, you may be aiming for things that you don't actually want. I have met people who are super successful doctors, etc., brain doctors actually in the US. And they were working all the time. They were never at home with the kids. They had staff taking care of their home, all that stuff. And they've actually moved to Zimbabwe. Okay, because they realized they have the brains and skills, but they didn't have a balance, because what they thought they wanted, the big house, the fancy cars, was actually not their end goal. Their goal was to be the best ambassador to their children, to be there to care for their parents in old age. So it depends on your goals. So I love money and money loves me. That's the saying I have used for years. I say it in the car when I drive. I say that about my spiritual self, my relationships, all the different categories of life. And I was very embarrassed and uncomfortable to say those words. I love money and money loves me. And I got really good at saying it. Then I realized I have no guilt associated to that. And therefore things started flowing. So I'm just saying that you got to be a bit flexible with your goals. You have to ask yourself, yes, okay, everyone wants money. Great. Okay, well, to counteract and balance it, what else do you want? What is it that you're trying to get out of money? When you have a conversation about that, you will be much more fluid in your goals, and you'll realize you can be rich, like crazy rich, without having millions of dollars in the bank. Okay. What I mean by that is time, freedom, flexibility, the ability to work from different locations. All these different things are more freedom orientated, and freedom is much better than money. Now, as I said, I know I need money. I do have expensive taste, I have to admit, but hey, everyone acquires that. But my goals are really for longevity. I'm going to be around. I know I'm going to be stuck here. So I might as well live well and be healthy. So that's more of a priority. But there you go.
Yeah, that's so true. There's so much, and it's different for everybody, of course. But that's great. So are there any things in your life that made you who you are now, like major events or even family or other people, mentors maybe, that even like pushed you in this direction of being like, you mentioned your parents, obviously, but is there like any other people or things that shaped you?
Yeah, when it comes to my ethical code of conduct, as it were, it would be shaped not only with my parents, which obviously were predominant in that, but my two uncles. So multiple uncles, in fact. I've got an uncle who, he's passed away, and he was orthopedic surgeon in Zimbabwe. He didn't interact with me very much, and I didn't interact with him, but observing him and how he functioned was very a big lesson. My uncle, my eldest uncle, he is now 80, I think he's 87 or 88, I can't remember. He is probably the most gentle giant who impacted many lives because he was more of a humanitarian. But along the way, money is attracted to happiness. And he taught me that you can have best of both worlds. So he is a very big, important mentor of mine. He's alive. And my other uncle who passed away, my dad's brother, they're all my dad's. But simply put, Santosh Patel, he was a huge influence because he died when I was living in Portugal. I had to move to London to study there for a couple of years because my mom and dad moved to basically be closer to him. He was dying of cancer. And he was the smartest man I knew. And his legacy to date, I mean, I think he passed away when I was like 7, maybe younger. I don't even know. And to date, he is still a huge, formidable force in our lives today. We still mention him and talk about him. So things like that are number one. But after you go away from family, not everyone has the benefit and bliss of having a family backing like that. It's conventional because I learned what they did. Business was manufacturing, old school. And then when I got involved in the travel space, but personal development and travel came hand in hand, right? And simply put, what happened there was I met a man, or he was the trainer, as it were, Mark Asetta. And he started doing, he really focuses on mindset management. And it was new to me. I was, 10, 11, 12 years ago, I had no idea what personal development was. I thought people that went to the self-help section in a library or a bookshop needed self-help. That means they were broken. So my interpretation of people who had self-help was they need therapy, they need counseling, they're broken, they're messed up, their brain doesn't work, like really ignorant formats of it. And then, of course, my mind opened up. So personal development became huge. Marcus said it led me down that path. And behind me, I know you can see it, but the listeners cannot, but I have books on spiritual growth, on financial growth, on personal development, on conversations with yourself, things like that. So that became a big part of it. So, like Bob, okay, like we're having a talk today, but just the other day, Bob Proctor passed away, right? And he was a huge influence in the personal development space, as is Tony Robbins, etc. But I am very aware that personal development as an industry, or as I say, personal development gurus, I'm not dumb to the fact that that's a business funneling system, right? So you need to be very aware of what are you trying to achieve and what conversation are you trying to have in your head. So there's certain books that are really good and certain audios, but certain people do have these massive seminars of thousands of people and they just keep on funneling people. And, you realize that a small percentage grow out of it and become something and learn something. Not everyone does, but that's true for everything, right? Your degree, your career, everything. A small percentage will do something, but I'm grateful for them, for Marcus Setta, and of course a host of other people that I kind of listen to and follow. Let me think of another huge trajectory. One of them would have been, when you get shaken up, like if you come from a big family and you see politics within people or politics within family, it wasn't a one-off moment that shook me up and made me realize, but multiple things that happen, and you become an observer in your life. When you become an observer in your life, I think you are truly detached from the outcome, which means you are able to achieve more, be happier, have a sense of self. And when I saw these some things happening in families around me, not necessarily my family, but other families, I noticed that you can learn from that. You need to know how to balance relationships and the goodness of them, and always seek to understand before you are understood. Where most of us, including myself, usually point the finger and want to talk about people and gossip. And once I stopped engaging in that, I became my own beacon of light, or not beacon of light, but became my own speaker. I used to speak to myself and say, I sound crazy, right? I speak to myself. And I used to say, hey, Anand, is that a conversation you want to have? Do you want to go down that path, or do you want to give them benefit of doubt? So once you see better in everyone and love for everyone, I'm telling you, I'm telling you now, one thing, guys, if you're chasing money, great. But just remember, the more fun you have in life, the more money comes your way. Just remember that rule.
That's a great rule. That's a great rule. So when in your life did you know what you wanted to do? I mean, it's not like one thing you're doing, right? And I guess a lot of things must have happened to be where you are right now.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is this. I think many of us wake up and we're the result of circumstance. We just wake up and, we blow around with the wind and whatever course our parents sent us to, or school, that all becomes consequence. But I still do not know what I want. I'm 43 now, and I'm still like, hey, I'm so open that I say, as long as your main priorities in life are met, it doesn't truly matter if it's one thing you're going to do. So to me, it's like I'm open to many things. How did I find it? I think it was I became more of a decision maker. So once you live life by design, like what are your goals? Time freedom. What are your goals? Financial freedom. What are your goals? Six pack. What are your goals? Sleeping with like 5 girls a week. Like, what are your goals? Like, figure this out. Once you figure all this out, you will then, number one, know if it's superficial or if it's true. Okay, because many of us have superficial goals, which is okay, because that's how I started. Even now I do. Like I have silly, you may call them superficial, but they're important to me. My goal is to take 6 vacations a year. Well, I started with 1 vacation a year. Like you have to, have different focuses. So what I was going to say with that is, am I doing exactly what I want? No, I'm doing what feeds my soul at the moment. But if a friend comes along and has a great idea and is passionate, I think I'm multi-passionate. I think many of us humans, as humans go, are multi-passionate. We somehow subdue the passion and focus on one thing because that's paying the bills. Even if the boss is repressing you, even if you hate your work colleagues, you do that. But if you just wake up your passions and say, well, I'm human. It's not even human to only have one passion. Our brains are so huge and not used that if you truly started tapping into different parts of it, you'd be so interested in so many things. So if a friend came to me and said, hey, I'm excited about this, I'm so passionate, and you could see it in them, I'll say, hey, I can make time. We make time. I can create some time to understand where you're coming from. And maybe if I can make some money on that or do it together with you, then so be it. So I found out a few years ago, I was in a space where personal development helped me, where people that are on the same path of financial freedom, time freedom, personal development, growth, when they're on that path and you change your circle of friends for something like that, that's the hardest part, by the way. It took me years and years to even find people like that, but it's okay. That's part of the journey. And then it just started flowing. Now, was it easy? Was it like a sailboat after? No, things crashed, incomes dropped, everything happens. I mean, it was a big fat mess, but it is the mess. And today I'm speaking to you. And for the past 4 weeks, I've been at crossroads. I've been trying to step back from my life and say, where am I going? Why am I going here? Is it what I truly wanted? And I've woken up to the reality that it's actually not. So I have to steer the ship again and say, okay, let me go back to my essence and say, what feeds my soul? And now let me find things that feed that soul. And I don't think it's going to be the last time. I don't think there's one route. I'm ready and prepared that in a few years' time, I'm going to get to that epiphany moment again and say, oh my God, I'm 50 now. Well, instead of having like a big drunken party, well, that would be fun too, actually. But let's say you have that part and you also say, let me step back and ask myself, am I doing the right things for the right reasons? Or am I just doing it because I wake up and I do the same thing every day and you get in that habit? So every once in a while, it's okay to shuffle things up as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, I guess, right?
For the right reasons. And I think it's also, if you have your goals set and you want to reach them, right?
Yes.
And I mean, for some people it's circumstances, for sure. Mm-hmm. But I was talking to Millie the other day and she says, circumstances change things, but it doesn't shape you necessary to your final product, right?
Correct. Millie is beautiful. Oh my God. I think we were in Cancun together. She's beautiful. Anyways, I agree with Millie on this because your end goal has to be a vision of the lifestyle you deserve, you dream of, and all your dreams are deserving. Just remember that. As long as they are coming from a foundation of what you truly want. So if on your vision board or your mental board, whatever you're using, if you have an end goal, if you have to change trajectories a few times, it's okay, because those, as Millie says, those are simply circumstances. And you got to steer that ship along and say, this is my end goal. So depending what's on your mental board or your vision board, you will end up there as long as you stay true to that vision. And don't feel bad for changing it, okay? So let me give you an example. I think every guy on the call can understand. Years and years ago, The goal is to look as amazing as you can, as hot as you can on a beach, so all the girls can look at you, kind of deal, right? Now, years later, 2 days, I'm like, my goals changed significantly in my physical arena. My physical goal is now to have mobility, flexibility, and be generally fit. It's not about when I take my shirt off, I look like better than any other guy on the beach. It's about that because my goal, my essence has changed. My long-term vision. So, you have to be okay to cut out a new photograph or a picture and stick it on top of the six-pack. But hey, if you have a six-pack, all kudos to you. I like chocolate desserts a little too much. So, hey, I had to accept that. And I had to say, am I willing to sacrifice it? Nah. For money, I was willing to sacrifice quite a few things. And, you have to ask yourself, to create family time and family reunions was huge. And I will sacrifice for that. But apparently when it came to my six-pack, I wasn't willing to. When I got to two-pack, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm happy. Like, I'm okay with that.
I'm there with you. Do you compare yourself with anyone? And it could be in a negative way or in a positive way, like comparing, like you want to build up to this person as well, or in a negative way, breaking you down, like, oh, damn, this person has reached so much more, yet he is younger, yet he is this or that. Like, yes. How did you go about that?
I think that's one of the things that stops us from achieving our true potential. You asked about potential. And for me, it was definitely one of those where in the beginning you compare. In the beginning, it was negative comparisons, right? Oh my God, this guy is my same age, or we studied together, we did this, he's doing that. Oh my God, he's amazing. He's doing so well. While I'm happy for him, deep down, I was also beating myself up to say, why haven't you done anything? What's wrong with you? So that was my negative conversations, which eventually became positive through self-affirmations, self-conversation, and maybe some audios in the car. Instead of listening to music for a good 4 years, I switched off all music, which is weird, I know, but I put audios in my car. I stopped watching TV. I don't watch the news 10 years ago, actually. So now it's more like when I see somebody, I super get excited for where they're going in life. But I often, just the other day, I said, oh, remember, literally it was a very cognizant thing. Don't forget, we're not comparing with other people. We're sticking to our path, and our path is clear, and it does not matter what's happening. Everyone is in their journey or their karmic cycle at a different stage in their lives. Maybe they started earlier, I started later. It doesn't matter. What matters is stay on your path. So yes, like every human being, I have oscillated between negative self-talk and self-deprecating self-talk, which I guess has its place. But when you're negative about it, only your voice can hear it. And I don't think we know how often we are negative about ourselves. So I was very negative often, and self-pity, pity party for yourself. And then I started saying, I don't throw pity parties to myself. I was like, you tried to get me there because I have an alter ego. So create an alter ego and you have a conversation with yourself. You sound crazy, but hey, if you talk to God, it's the same thing. Sometimes I talk to God like he's my buddy. I'm like, hey, you tried to get me right now. I know you just try to goof around with me, but you're not going to get the best of me. So whether you do it to yourself or God or whatever you believe in, don't compare yourself. It's the easiest thing to say, hardest thing to do. But sometimes, just 2 days ago, I said, oh, I do this. I snap my fingers, by the way. So that's my trigger. I just go, I snap my fingers, and that reminds me not to play that game with my other ego, as it were. Okay. So that's a little trick that I learned at Alpha Dynamics NLP course.
Wow. That's very interesting. So moving on to wrapping up very soon. What are your short-term plans and long-term plans? Like, what's in store for you right now?
Okay, so for short term, my goal is mainly to declutter is becoming a big thing right now in the past couple of weeks because of crossroads. When you have so many options and you don't know where to go, it's like when you have the ability to live in 5 countries, you end up moving nowhere because you have too many choices. People who are immigrants running away from upheaval, they go to one country and they build their lives up because that's the only option they have. So similarly, again, I'm at crossroads, multiple options. My main goal for the next short term, for the next 90 days, is to declutter 10x. Like I want to minimize, declutter, give away half everything in the house to SPCA or some charitable organization so that I have the ability to have clarity. So that's a short-term goal. By long-term, I mean like, course of this year. So the course of this year, definitely becoming much more of a savvier money manager, to understand how to grow my money the right way, how to make money through working, obviously, but you can definitely make a little bit of money and you can grow a lot more money. So people that say, I'm poor, I don't make enough. Well, no, I know it's hard to understand this. I came from a place where when I started my journey 10, 11, 12 years ago, I was like, I think it was like $36,000 in debt. And I started out of that to come out of this and become, where I am today. So my long-term goal is definitely to have a better sense of purpose. And that's going to be through my vision board. I'm actually at the moment creating time to organize a family reunion to bring everyone post-COVID together again. That's like 42 people, my dad's side of the family. And it's a lot of logistical work, but that's a long-term goal I have for this year. So financially, basically, it's going to be to stick to my path, start a new project, which I am working on right now, in the network marketing space, and the other ones in more of an investment capacity, to understand the futures like the metaverse, the cryptocurrency worlds, the forex worlds, all these other worlds out there, which people often want to make quick money in, but I'm not that guy. I'm a long-term guy, which is why I think my wealth has built up quite consistently and methodically, even through the ups and downs. So that's my long-term goal. My other long-term goal is to basically build a life where I'm not location dependent, which I started doing before COVID. I was actually going to move to Malaysia for 4 months and just go suss it out and see if I like it. And I want to get to that stage again where I'm kind of like very online. I'm not very techie. That's my issue. As you know, Milan, I'm not the techiest person ever. I can't be moving with like 500 books and notebooks in my suitcase. So I want to get to that stage, which I know is easy for many people. And my other long-term goal is, again, as I said, I want to educate people for what I've learned for the past few years. If that's going to be health, I'm going to do a health talk with some doctors. If that's going to be my financial journey, I'm not an advisor, so I would never give that advice out. I'll say understanding how I learned about money. So teaching people, I learned here A, B, C. And I want to kind of get on with that. And that's going to be my pro bono contribution to society. So I'm giving back to society. I don't necessarily want to go back into the hospitals and like I used to do charity projects. I don't feel like that's where I am right now. But I used to love it. I used to love going into the hospitals on a Thursday and going to play with the children who had cancer. And that was really fulfilling. But it was also very selfish because some of us who do charity do it for acknowledgement. And I've got to the epiphany point where I'm like, no, what would really serve is if I were able to teach a group of 10, 20 people, maybe I'll do 10 of those and that's 200 people, but eventually teaching them about what can they do to take ownership on their health instead of forking out their salaries. In Zimbabwe, people don't earn much, right? But giving their salaries to a doctor to give them some prescription medication, which really, yeah, sometimes I do agree. I have a lot of doctors in the family, so I do agree. But I know that 80% of a lot of conditions can be helped through education of diet, micronutrients, trace minerals, things that people are missing. So I could do talks on that, talks on money. So that's what, one of my main goals is to become a better citizen of the world in terms of giving back in those ways. Because once money starts working for you, you have that ability to say, let me help some other people do a few more things. I'm nowhere near where I need to be financially. So, no one will ever reach their pinnacle. You've never met a millionaire to say this is enough. Now, you can meet a multimillionaire and say they want 10x because they're greedy, or it's because they know that with 10x, you can actually be a huge contributor to social causes and today's real world problems, right? So my background's environmentalism. So I used to do plastics recycling. That's how I started in the world of employment. And it was so passionate. So I want to go back to, kind of those things. They're kind of fun, but money makes it work. So I do understand the balance of all that, I hope.
That's a lot of plans for sure. That's so cool. So do you have any recommendations for tools for people for self-development or things like we've been on top of a lot of things already, like what you can do? Obviously, you can learn YouTube. You mentioned books are there. You mentioned a few tricks what you can do, such as meditating and stand still with yourself to analyze and stuff. But are there any other tools that you recommend for people for self-development?
Yeah. You know what I'll tell you, for many of us people that were busy working, like when I had a full-time job, I was working like 10, 12 hours a day. I used to work on Saturdays. It was nonstop. It's really hard to change one's life, which is humans always want to evolve. It's hard to change one's life if you don't allocate the time. So number one is going to be this. The best tool is your diary. So the number one thing I'm going to say to you is have a weekend away. Maybe it change, because if you do it in your house, it maybe doesn't work because people are here all the time. You may say, let me just rent out a little Airbnb, a 1-bedroom or a hotel, and literally just go away for the weekend and don't take everything with you. Only take like your notepad or a board or something, and give yourself that weekend to actually dream, to draw out, write out, or cut out exactly what you're visioning. The best tip I got from one of the men that I called a mentor back in the day, he taught me how you can earn money from binary compensation systems in network marketing, for example. And this is going back 10, 12 years ago. And the number one thing he did every year with his wife was they went away to the mountains. They hired a small little dinkum lodge with a fireplace, and they literally sat down and said, okay, well, we're here to dream. So let's talk about spirituality or whatever your soul is telling you. Let's talk about physical and health. Let's talk about financial. Let's talk about acquisitions. Like, what do we want to own? So material possessions. And that's very good. You live in a material world. Well, some people will be living in the metaverse only, but hey, we also live in this material world. So balancing all that out. And what that does is that may be the first time you ever have the conversation with yourself. What do I dream of? When I was young, what did I believe that I could become? And have those real conversations. If that brings tears and that brings, oh my God, pity on yourself, it's okay. Go through the emotions. It's okay. But at the end of the weekend, you'll actually have a piece of paper or a book, or maybe you're really high tech. You have done an online document or something that will actually reflect what your true goals are. Now, once you have that, guess what the beauty is? Every day, a tool that you can do is 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening, but you got to put it in. And I'm really bad. I forget things. Habits are really hard to build because you forget. I put an alarm on my phone, and I don't put a loud one, obnoxiously loud. I put a really nice, like serene piano music one, ding, ding, ding. And I was like, oh yeah, time to sit down, close my eyes and visualize. And if you re-engage your subconscious with your dream, it will work for you, okay? People will come into your life that are more beneficial than the past 20 years. You will have conversations with complete strangers that will maybe get you a contact that allows you to get towards your other goal. I have a friend right now. She is working on her health, recuperation. She had an issue where she was in a wheelchair, I think it was 7 years, and through mental, this, that, the other, she basically started walking, but her right leg still drags. Okay, so she doesn't have the ability to control it. She literally has such a strong vision for her future self, even though the doctor said this is the maximum you're going to be. She can walk. She should be super grateful that she can walk, but she drags her right foot. Well, she said, no, that's not good enough for me. I will walk and I will be able to do a lot more properly. Okay, doctor said no. Well, guess what? Lo and behold, there's a guy standing in her gym right by a board that she's reading, blah, blah, blah. He happens to be one of 2 specialists that looks at specific muscles and ligament rehabilitation that really not even a normal physiotherapist does. He is now coaching her. She's already got 30% progress on the ability to control her right foot. So my point to you is this. Her vision was strong. If your vision is strong, the right people will come in your life. I still believe, and I always say, more and more people, the right people are coming into my life to build the life that I want, so we can all have a mutually beneficial relationship. And that is why good people come your way. That is why Milan, you and I connected and kept in touch, and there's always something there. So guys, allocate the time in your diary, spend that weekend away. Don't be that ridiculous human being that is busy being busy. It is pathetic. It is pathetic in today's world that we keep on blaming everything. Yes, I have friends that have 6 children. but they have the ability to step away and do what they have to do because they wanted a day where their life will not repeat over and over and over. Okay. So what I'm going to say is remind yourself when you're making excuses, the only person that listens to your excuses is you. And unfortunately, the one that has to live with it is you. So you got to get uncomfortable. Go book an Airbnb. If you have money, go book the Ritz-Carlton. I don't care what you like. It doesn't matter to me. Just go do something for yourself. Be selfish enough to become the human that you were supposed to, because then you can turn around and help all the other people. I detest it when people are all, oh, I'm helping people. Well, look at your finances. Look at your physical health. Look at your current business. What exactly are you? Why don't you help yourself first and then go help other people? That's what I think the goal is. So there's some things I don't help people with because I'm still trying to help myself, but there's certain things that I can damn well help people. Business, educate, health, I can help people with those things. Physical, not yet, but I'll get there. I'm never going to be a personal trainer. That's why I hire one, so it's fine.
That's true. That's awesome. That's a really good tip. Do you have a favorite saying, or maybe like you already said certain things for philosophies as well? But
you know what? When I was preparing for this podcast, I actually looked at, my answer was going to be no. Okay. Because I always think when you're reading or you're listening or you're watching a movie, there's always some quote that hits you at that moment because it's appropriate for that moment. But I will say one of them. Because you asked me now and it came to me, and it's always been one that, because you love history, by the way, I love history, which is so interesting. But I like going backwards, like Inca and Aztec. I like going back. So history, but I also love the history and science of religion. Okay. So whilst I'm multi-religious, I was born Hindu, I'm actually more spiritual. I think there's more spirituality in all religions. But here's the quote that I've stood by for years. And that is why meditation is also important. I'm not perfect. I don't meditate every day. I drop off the horse all the time. I fall off the horse all the time, but I try and get back in. The quote is, God is within you. Now, why do I like that quote? Because whether you're Buddhist, Taoist, Hindu, Christian, whatever it is, they always say God is within you. And what that means to me is that the light, the bright white light, is inside you. So if you're of faith and you believe in God, if you believe God is inside you, you'll realize God is not in a physical building, not in a cathedral or a church. And if you believe in that, that means you believe in your soul. So whether you're looking at God as you, or you are God, or God is external, I would say bring it all inside yourself and stop blaming the outside. Stop blaming your priest or your rabbi or whatever, and all that stuff. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, if God is within me, the power is within me. Let me find myself, and then everything will become right. And that is where my quote is. God is within you.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Is there a platform or anywhere we can follow you?
I mean, look, I'm kind of like, I don't have tons of social medias, but definitely Facebook and Instagram. My handle is anand.ferco, ANAND.ferco, FERCO.
I will definitely link that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was an amazing talk with you, and it was so good to see you again.
Excellent to see you. Thank you for connecting. And I really appreciate the deep questions you asked. It made me start thinking again as well. And always a good time to really build up one another, So thank you very much for this opportunity.
I really hope that either I can come over or you can come back to Vietnam. I think we're opening up very soon.
I will come to you, of course, but you have to come to Victoria Falls and go. We're going to do a safari. So yes, definitely see you soon in the post-COVID travel world.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll hear more from you then soon.
Take care.